Let's do some basic math. Let's imagine Joe Black has a good job that pays him handsomely. Mr. Black drives a Japanese car, lives in a nice, modest house, fixes it himself, cooks at home, and in general is a frugal person. Let's say Mr. Joe Black earns $100,000 per year at his job, spends $90,000 and saves $10,000 per year. In 15 years of careful savings, Mr. Black is able to accumulate $150,000. That's in his savings account. But all of a sudden, there's a financial disaster, a bad event happens at his company, and Mr. Black's salary is cut in half. He earns $50,000 per year now. But this financial event has put so much stress on Joe Black that he goes nuts. Instead of spending less, he decides to live like a king, like there is no tomorrow. He trades his old, depreciated, reliable Toyota for a brand new gas-guzzling Mercedes-Benz and gets a second car, a little red convertible for weekend drives. Mr. Black moves from his modest house to a large mansion with a swimming pool and buys lots of stuff he really doesn't need and flies to luxury hotels, getaways on weekends, paying for that with his credit cards. He starts going out for steak dinners every single day. Now Mr. Black spends $150,000 per year, way more than he earns. Like I said, Mr. Black has gone insane, pretending to live like somebody he's not. Heck, not a big deal, as Joe has a nice savings account, remember? All goes well for about 20 months, a little under 2 years. You know, that good rich life. Then, one day, one out of the blue, Mr. Black's bank card gets declined when he tries to pay for his daily groceries. And then he immediately gets a call from his bank. The check that Mr. Black sent for the mortgage payment bounced. And the most payments of his are past due now. Mortgage is in trouble, credit card's in trouble. And he gets call after call after call from banks and companies who he owes money. Everyone wants to get paid, and Mr. Joe Black has run out of money. The savings account has predictably dried out. Current earnings cover just a part of expenses, and Mr. Joe Black doesn't know what to do. His life becomes living hell. His life is about to change forever. Well, welcome to Putin's Russia of 2025. Howdy everyone, my name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. As usual, you will not hear any lies, BS, or propaganda at this channel, only truth, common sense, and logic, and some emotions, because I am a human being after all. I would like to talk about the thing I like to talk most about, Russia's economy. I'm an economist by trade. I love economy. I like numbers. And I would like to tell you what is happening in Russia. Of course, Mr. Joe Black is a metaphor for Putin's Russia. I tried to explain on a very easy to understand example what has happened to Russian economy in the last couple years. Russia started earning much less due to the few reasons, such as the international sanctions limiting natural resources exports, millions of Russian people fleeing, millions actually, over 3 million, hundreds of thousands of people getting killed, and Russia started spending much more due to greatly increased military expenditures. Hey, the war costs a lot of money. Russian government led by Vladimir Putin is spending like there is no tomorrow. And you know what? There is no tomorrow for Putin. There is no tomorrow for his buddies, his servants who surround him. The blood-sucking vampires, they're good for today, but they know that tomorrow they don't have a place in Russia's future. Anyway, that policy of living like there's no tomorrow and spending like there's no tomorrow is destroying Russian economy. To be precise, I should say that has already destroyed Russian economy. What we're seeing right now is a fast decline. The foundation has been destroyed, it's corroded, it's been hit, you can call it whatever you want, but the foundation is in trouble and the house above the foundation is crumbling. Again, we don't have to be rocket scientists to understand why it's happening. Russia earns less and spends more. Russia's balance is in red. Russia has survived the last 3 years with the savings account called the Fund of National Well-Being. But in December of 2024, a few weeks ago, it ran dry. The only options left now are pretty extreme and grim. The government has chosen to turn the printing press on out of all the options. And this is a checkmate. High inflation will be devaluing national currency ruble and rendering Russia's people earnings and savings useless. But enough talk. Talk is cheap. I want to give you current details of Russian economy. Basically give you a very short overview of 2024 as the numbers are finally out. My job has become actually very easy lately. I don't forecast much any longer. Instead, I just give you facts. The facts come out of every day and they speak volumes. So let's talk of the facts, those numbers and figures that I love so much. And I'll give you the most important indicators. I'll start with the inflations. The inflation. Let me take a sip of this wonderful English tea. Oh, it's good. I'll start with inflation. The official Росстат, Russia's statistics agency, inflation data for 2024, the inflation amounted to 9.52%. That is a lie. That number is cooked. For many reasons, but just one reason, this is bulletproof reason to understand it's cooked. Росстат simply omitted the inflation data for the last week of 2024 to sugarcoat the annual inflation number, to make it look under 10%. You see, when inflation hits double digits, 10 and up, it becomes galloping inflation. So they simply didn't add the inflation for the last week as if it has simply disappeared, as if it doesn't exist, okay? They did so to make the number look better, under 10%. Some experts, including a company called Ramir, Sirena, and some experts of Finam financial platform, gave different numbers, real-life inflation numbers. And some of them gave the numbers up to 38%. I believe that number. 38% is hyperinflation. The number that Росстат released for the first 2 weeks of January of this year, of 2025, is already over 10% annual inflation. So all in all, the inflation in Russia is a disaster. Formally coming from the government and informally coming from the experts. All agree it's a disaster. They just disagree on the magnitude of this disaster. Now off to the federal budget. The planned federal budget deficit for 2024 was planned at 1.6 trillion rubles. The number was planned in 2023, and I covered that carefully in details in one of the live streams. And back then, I said that 1.6 is a laughing stock. It's not going to happen. It's too little. The real deficit will be so much more. That's what I said. Now, 1.6 is what we had officially in the beginning of 2024 for the last year. The number was adjusted, increased to 2.1 trillion rubles in July, and then more to 3.2 trillion in October. And the final factual deficit federal budget deficit amounted 3.5 trillion rubles. 3.5 trillion rubles. There are two things I'd like to emphasize here. First of all, you don't do that. Not one single country or Ministry of Finance or Treasury doesn't do that, shouldn't do that, can't do that. You can't adjust your budget deficit quietly, not making statements about that, not making it a big deal. You just can't do that. If someone planned for 1.6 and then it turned out 3.5, that shows us whoever planned 1.6 didn't do a good job, should be fired, at least. Okay? But you know what? No one is responsible. No one holds responsibility in Putin's Russia. They simply wrote a new number 3 times in July, in October, and in December. And then that's one thing I wanted to emphasize. And the second thing is 3.5 trillion rubles is the record high budget deficit for Russia for the last, 15 years. This red number, in deep red, 3.5 trillion rubles, is more than the entire defense budget of Russia in 2021. And in the years before that. The budget deficit now is more than the entire defense budget in the previous years. I'm giving you this number so you understand the scale, the magnitude of the disaster. For the last 3 years, 22, 23, 24, for the 3 years of the war, Russia's budget deficit amounted to over 10 trillion rubles combined. That's a very bad number, scary number. That's how much was spent from the National Welfare Fund to cover the federal budget deficit. All in all, federal budget deficit is a disaster. Well, the state of Russia's federal budget is a disaster. Off to the Fund of National Welfare. Oh, Russia's notorious savings account. Its liquid part, the money, is gone. There's very little left in the Chinese yuans and gold, but most likely it will not be touched. That's the very emergency money. For example, if Putin will need to bail an industry out or flood to cover up some event with money, that's what he likes to do, and that's what he does. If he doesn't have this emergency money, he'll be in a very, very tight spot. Okay, so it's safe to say that the Fund of National Well-being is gone. At least its liquid part is gone. Of course, there are plenty of bonds, government company, the big monopolies bonds, and debts to other countries and so forth. But that's not liquid part. You can't take a government bond. You can't take $3 billion that Russia lent to Ukraine in early 2014 and start spending it. That's just a piece of paper, just for the example, you know. So the savings account has dried out, and all in all, that's a disaster. Russian people have been robbed of their money because the Fund of National Welfare is Russian people's money. Off to the key rate. But you know what? Before I talk about the key interest rate, I would like to take a sip of this wonderful English breakfast tea. And thank you. Take this opportunity to thank you, Inside Russia community members. Thank you for watching my videos, giving me a chance to deliver my messages. Thank you for praying for me and with me. Thank you for sending me love. Thank you for the support that you sent through Buy Me Coffee, PayPal, and Patreon. Thank you so very much. Monetized or demonetized, I promise I will continue doing what I've been doing. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now off to the key interest rate. It is a very important economic indicator. It kind of shows what's going on in the economy. And right now, it is an economic development called Zugzwang. In other words, there's no good move left for the Central Bank of Russia. The key interest rate is at all-time high right now, 21%. But even at this level, it can't effectively control the inflation. As you just learned, I told you, the inflation is also nearing record high, and it's going up and up and up, and it's showing record digits in January of 2025. Russian government has placed itself into a situation that I call a lose-lose. You know, them Russian world geniuses they are. If Russian central bank keeps on increasing the key interest rate, it's going to be tremendously difficult for Russian businesses to exist. How can you borrow money at, say, current 29%? And if it gets higher, then it's going to be 30 plus, 40 plus, perhaps. You can't do that. You don't earn that much. You don't make such profits to cover the interest rate. So the industry is going to be hurting. There will be more and more companies dying, okay? And if the central bank does not increase or even decrease the key interest rate, the inflation is going to skyrocket, to get even worse than it is now. Because if you keep the interest rate at 21 or decrease it, it's like putting down the fire with gasoline. So all in all, the key interest rate situation is a disaster. Off to immigration. It is at record levels. Another huge problem for Russia as a country, for Russian society, and for the economy. Over 3 million Russians have left the country, and they keep on leaving in high numbers. Here in Tashkent, we welcome new members of Tashkent Breakfast Club, this community that I have created for immigrants, refugees who leave Russia, for Russians and Ukrainians. We welcome new members every week. Families come. Before, a couple years ago, it was running from Russia, leaving everything behind and running without looking back. Now it's different kind of immigration. People plan for a long time. they find jobs, they build career plans, they learn new language, they get a job, they sell everything they have, real estate, belongings, and they move in a planned, scheduled manner. Okay, so we welcome new members in Tashkent Breakfast Club every week now. Combined with those mobilized to the front lines, killed and crippled, unemployment rate right now is at 1.8. Before I hadn't heard that 1.8% unemployment exists. It means that any Russian man or woman can walk out of the door and get a job within 5 minutes because there are vacancies everywhere, anywhere you look. There's simply not enough people to work. That is a disaster for any economy and definitely disaster for Russian economy. Off to corporate bankruptcies. A wave of corporate bankruptcies has started. The Russian economy may see an increase in already high rate of corporate bankruptcies, according to experts from the Center for Macroeconomic Analysis and Short-Term Forecasting. That's an analytical organization financed by the Russian government. This bankruptcies increase is due to the increased debt burden of businesses that occurred last year, which was caused by an increase in key interest rate. You see, it's all interconnected. The situation for companies in the core investment technology sector of the economy has been particularly difficult. Experts say that state-owned companies are not at risk of bankruptcies as the government bails them out, and private companies without state support may face bankruptcies. If you remember, that's what I've been saying in the past 2 years, that a wave of both corporate and personal bankruptcies coming to Russia, and it's going to take many Russian commercial banks along with it. No need to be a rocket scientist to understand that. Well, you know what? Somehow it seems that there are not too many people in Russia that even get to the level of not being rocket scientists. That's one of those mysteries. The analytical center that gives the number of, get this, 20% of machine processing and manufacturing companies facing the bankruptcies in 2025. Every fifth machine processing manufacturing company in Russia will go under. And it's even worse in the transportation industry, transportation companies. 30% of all transportation companies in Russia will go bankrupt in the near future. Again, that's the government-funded, censored organization speaking. Most likely, the reality is much, much worse. I gave an example of two industries, machine processing and manufacturing and transportation, but other industries are also in trouble. For example, oil and natural gas, extraction, processing, metals, coal. All these industries are in trouble. All will require government's subsidies. I made a live stream about oil and natural gas in Russia. I'm going to place a link right over here. Check it out. I described in details what's going on in these industries, how Russian oil is coming to the end. But things aren't looking well for coal. The coal industry, coal extraction has collapsed. Companies are closing. 2025 will be a terrible year for coal extracting companies. Right now, they are laying off employees by thousands for one simple reason. China has stopped buying Russian coal and it simply has no place to sell it, to export it to. Of course, there's domestic consumption, but it's not compared to what Chinese use. Metals are in pretty similar position. The global demand for metals is dropping, and that puts Russia into a much less advantageous position. And Russian companies are sanctioned on top of that. I know that Norilsky Nickel is kind of in panic right now, trying to change its long-term strategy. They are even thinking of moving manufacturing facilities abroad, building new plants in China. I'm not sure how well it's going to go, but they basically don't know what to do. Steel companies are in a similar situation. Trouble, trouble, trouble. That is a catastrophe. Not only Russia is not going to be getting revenues, jobs will be lost. Taxes will not be paid. Catastrophe. Off to personal bankruptcies. Personal bankruptcies have already broken the record. In 2024, in the last year, they were personal bankruptcies. Well, they were 4.8 times more personal bankruptcies than in the year before, in 2023. Folks, I want you to pause a little bit and think of this number. In 24, they were 4.8 times, 480% increase in personal bankruptcies compared in 2023. And personal bankruptcies are forecasted to hit even higher numbers in 2025. Do I have to say anything else? This is a catastrophe, catastrophe, catastrophe by a level unseen ever before in Russia. See, in the world of economy, all these industries, all these actions, all these processes, they are interconnected. If one goes down and brings everything down along with it. So this is not a perfect storm spinning above Russia. This is a super perfect storm, okay, of tremendous size. Now, off to taxes. Taxes are up. In 2023, I made a prediction for 2024. I said that one of the policies that Russian state will be applying is increasing all kinds of taxes for one simple reason. Russian state needs money to keep on financing the war in Ukraine. And it has brought the taxes up. Corporate taxes are up by 5%. They increased it from 20% to 25% corporate income taxes. Now from 20 to 25%. And personal taxes are also up as well. Used to be a flat rate of 13%. Now is a dynamic rate. The more you make, the more you pay taxes. This is a disaster for business in general. That is, the increased taxes are going to drive businesses out of business. They're going to be closing. I'll be keeping my eyes open and monitoring the situation. I'll be informing you. All in all, what I've told you, the key economic indicators, this is major. And as you can see, the numbers for 2024 are extremely bad. They're even worse than I expected. 2025 isn't looking that well. There is simply no reason to believe that things will change to the better in any of the topics, in any of the industries. Yet, I think that what I called my live stream Russian economy, danger maximum. That's what the thumbnail for the live stream says. And it's not a clickbait. It's far from clickbait because I think that this is just the beginning of a very long and huge decline for not just Russian economy, but Russia is a country. An economy is the foundation of the country, of the society. And this decline will last for decades. And Germany went through the very similar process in very similar situation in 1940s, late 1940s and 50s. But, Germans are not Russians, or Russians are not Germans. Germans were able to recover very fast, within 15 years. Germans had help of the United States, Marshall Plan. Germans had this ethics and values behind them, okay? Qualities that make them German. Russians don't have that. Russians have qualities that make them Russian. And I don't expect Russia to rebound fast. Even if the war is over or paused, I think that Russia is at the very beginning of a long and bad decline. And that decline is going to be even worse than the 90s, when the USSR fell apart, and all of a sudden, just like that, communism was replaced by capitalism. Hard times. 3 years were really hard. Wait until you see what's going to be happening with Russian economy soon. So I think that worst is yet to come. Folks, there will be many news coming out, and I have come up with a way of keeping everyone informed. I call this way Formula 54. I select 54 news every week, 9 news a day, and I make them available to patrons of Inside Russia. So if you want to stay on top of things Russia, if you want to know what happens with Russian economy, then you know where to look. Thank you so very much. That has been my message. I invite everyone to join me at the live stream chat. I'm going to turn it on right now. It is on. If you're not seeing the chat window, please refresh your page, reload it. And this is my personal most favorite part of every stream, when I see that so many people all of a sudden come into this virtual room, virtual hall, and we start communicating. So thank you so very much for coming. Fantastic to see everyone. Just give me a second here. I will adjust my usual technical settings. If you are here for the first time, I'd like to remind you, let you know that Inside Russia is a very pleasant and very safe community, and the moderators of Inside Russia make this community pleasant and safe. The moderators are Lorna, Mami K, Bob S, Harry Potman, Amir Fazad, and Dirk. Fantastic people and the best mods on YouTube and on internet and probably in the universe. So thank you, friends, for coming and watching my back. Thank you for coming, the usual suspects. Good to see usual faces here. Well, usual nicks, really, usual names. We have about half an hour. If you want me to see your message or question easier, please put it in all caps and put Inside Russia after @ so it appears highlighted in orange. Much easier for me to see. And if somehow I don't see your question, keep on asking, keep on highlighting in orange, and sooner or later I'll notice it. So just like Leitmotiv did, thank you. Lorna, Bob, and other mods who will be joining us. The usual suspects. Fantastic to see everyone. Baker's Talk, Bob, Andrew from South Africa. Sam the Legend. Thomas Davies. Thank you for another great stream from Wales. Thank you very much for wonderful words. I appreciate them a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hang on, let me place my computer so I watch your messages. I see your messages easier. Thank you. Remy Leon, hello, hello. Lee Ellerker, do you think that in 100 days Russia will be a position where they cannot turn things round economically? No. In 100 days, they will be much worse than right now. But what has, like I said in the stream, Russia has decided to turn the printing press on. They are printing money. They started November 26 of last year. They call this procedure aukciony repo. I don't know even how to translate it in English. Repo auctions. It's a very sly scheme. You see, Russian central bank cannot, by law, lend money to Russia's Ministry of Finance. And one of the ways Ministry of Finance can come up with extra money is to sell government bonds that the United States does all the time. But no one, and it was trying to sell lots of bonds in 2024, but no one was buying. So to get money, the central bank issued digital rubles, 1 trillion of digital rubles, to Russian commercial bank with one purpose. The banks would turn around and buy government bonds from the Ministry of Finance. And they will give the bonds as collateral to the central bank. In case Russian commercial banks fail to pay the central bank back, the central bank would simply keep the government bonds issued by the Ministry of Finance. Well, of course, Russian banks failed to pay 1 trillion rubles back. Well, that was intended. And the central bank ended up owning 1 trillion worth of Russia's government bonds, right? And this is nothing but a very sophisticated way of turning the printing press on, printing the money, throwing large amounts of money into Russian economy. They've done it 3 times already. Not just 1 trillion, but 3 trillion rubles have been injected into Russian economy. That is driving the inflation up, okay? So I believe that in 100 days, Russia will not be in a position where it will just fail to pay its debts. They'll be just printing more and more money, but the inflation will be skyrocketing, okay? I remember 92, inflation was so bad. I think it was like 1,000% per year. So basically, when my mom and dad got paid, first thing they did, they ran to a store to buy anything. They bought lots of food in bulk because they knew that the following day, the food would cost more, okay? And they bought, I don't remember, they bought like a couch, they bought a TV, they bought anything they could buy because you had to get rid of money. That's how bad it was. I believe that Russia is heading into that direction very, very fast. Serge Oderno, what could a Russian Marshall Plan look like? No, it's not going to happen. For one simple reason. In order for some kind of a plan to come up for Russia, international community help or other countries help, Russia needs to admit the guilt and the responsibility. Russia needs to repent, and I'm talking about Russian people, of course. They need to realize what they've done. They need to repent. Without it, no Marshall Plan, no lifting up sanctions, no lifting up isolation, and so forth. And I do not have trust in Russian people so far. I do not believe they will repent soon. They might in the future, things might happen, things might change, but not right now, not in the near future. That's why I think that a Marshall Plan is very not probable, improbable. But if theoretically, economies, like, I've been saying, it's not rocket science. Economy can be fixed within a few years. You need to change a system. You need to create a system of fair courts that does not exist in Russia any longer. Never existed really. You need to come up with a system that doesn't have any regulations for businesses. Basically, businesses should have freedom, no licensing, no regulations, no approval from the governments, local, federal for operation, no regulations for trade, low taxes, things like that. Very basic things. And the economy will flourish, will grow, the businesses will flourish. Okay? You need to get rid corruption. You need to get rid of the KGB. You need to replace the federal police. Those who are employed now, they must be lustrated. They must not be allowed to come back and to work for the government ever again. They're done. All they can do now, they should be allowed to do, is to work in the moving and as janitors. That's all. I hope I answered your question, Serge. Will labor shed from bankruptcies find new jobs quickly because of labor shortages? Yes and no. Different kind of laborers, different kind of jobs. For example, those who work with their hands, workers, they probably can find a job easy. White collar workers, probably not so easy. Dale Messer, thank you so much for good words. MS Mac, what are the implications for the Russian war machine? How will a collapsing economy manifest itself in the war? I'm not sure what the question is. Hang on. Let me translate into Russian. English is my second language after all. I apologize. Sometimes I fail to understand the questions. I still don't understand the question. What are the implications for the Russian war machine? There are two paths, okay? There's a crossroad. There's a road of light and a road of darkness. A road of light, Russia becomes free, becomes normal, becomes democratic. Another path is Russia remains in the dark. Putin comes, someone else replaces him. Putin goes, someone else replaces him. But the direction of the country is generally the same. And these are two different outcomes. The war machine needs to be reduced, perhaps destroyed. It must be transformed if Russia is on the way of light and democracy. And if it's in the darkness, then they will probably keep on beefing it up, okay? How will a collapsing economy manifest itself in the war? The last thing they're gonna do is to dry up money the last thing they're gonna do is to decrease financing of the war, of the military-industrial complex. There's an anecdote in Russia. a father, head of a family, comes back home and starts complaining to his wife and the kid, saying, "Can you imagine? I just came back from a food store. They increased the price of vodka." And son asks, "Daddy, it doesn't mean that you're going to be drinking less." And the dad looks at him and goes, "No, son. Higher price of vodka means you're going to eat less." And that's exactly what's going to happen with people. They're going to eat less. More taxes will be taken out of them. But the war machine will not eat less. It will operate as it's been operating. Palm Tree Kate, howdy. Konstantin, please tell us why the ruble seems to be recovering. It's not recovering. A ruble is not being traded right now. It's not a fiat currency. Okay, it's been the interest rate. The exchange rate is being set by the central bank. My take on that is someone is trying to make a buck. Someone at the very top. They buy dollars at let's say 98. They wait a couple weeks, a few days. They know that the exchange rate will jump to, let's say, 105. So they'll buy at 98. They will sell at 105. That's my take. Okay. I don't see any reasonable economic forces working for ruble. Okay. I see ruble devalued more and more in the future. Just give it a couple weeks, perhaps a few weeks, and then we'll come back to this issue of recovering ruble. It's recovering on paper, let's put it this way. It's Potemkin recovering. Philip Dopirak. Constant greeting from Slovakia. Send in my love to Slovakia. Thank you so much for checking in. Do you think that attacks on... Your question was cut short. Guten Abend, Rostock, Germany. Guten Abend, Uwe. Das ist gut, sehe ich. I'm not sure. My German Deutsch is very rusty. I'm sorry. I was trying to say good to see you. Jill Labrec, I'm sorry. Has Russia ever faced a serious decline in the standard of living before? Difficult question. I mean, it's a long answer, okay? Yes, some people went through a decline in living standard in 92, 91, late 91. Those who couldn't adjust to new life in capitalism. Those who were born and raised in communism, and they simply didn't know how to live. They didn't know the rules of the new world. There were lots of tragedies. 92, 93, 94, very, very tough time for some. But a lot of people have, a lot of people transformed, adjusted, adopted to the new economic conditions, and they prospered. So, but it happened, yes. In the USSR, we, didn't live like kings. Things are pretty darn bad. Our living standard was much lower than it is now, Even people who are not making lots of money, even pensioners, they probably living better now than at the USSR. George Rames, howdy. Robert, indeed. Seika S, howdy. Friendly reminder. I like the name. Thank you, Scott Nesbitt. VJ John, good to see you. In the wake of new world of economic tariffs around the corner, I don't know about that. Talk is cheap. Let's wait until the tariffs really do kick in, if they kick in. The Great Recession is coming. Not so sure. No, I'm not sure of anything anymore, but I'm sure of one thing. The talk is cheap. And every time you hear someone talk, don't forget that. The talk is cheap. Don't listen to people talking the talk. Watch them walking the walk. The untouchable, if Russian economy collapses, what does that mean for former Soviet republics? I think that in economic-wise, not much. Some who would suffer have already suffered, and it means more freedom from Russia, and probably that Russia will not ever control those republics ever again. Lee, I think I answered this question about 100 days. Then of Tranmere. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with names. Just arrive. Howdy, howdy, good to see you. No, I like this message. I like this message. David Reed. This is insane. I love it. This guy says the biggest beggar on YouTube. Holy moly. I'm demonetized. I'm not making any money from YouTube. Do you actually remember me begging for money even once? Even once? I know for sure. I have not asked or begged for money once, okay? I do receive quite a bit of support, and I am very grateful and thankful for that. But I never beg. I think. And it's never required, okay? And to me, that the reason, the fact that you tune in, watch me, communicate with me, engage into conversations, ask me questions, like my videos, subscribe to the channel, comment. That is already huge support and help. Thank you so much. And double thanks to those who support me through PayPal, Buy Me Coffee, and I've put up a crypto wallet, but I haven't received anything except for one test payment. That's all. So thank you so much. Double thank you. But begging, oh, come on, David. This is just funny. Drawbridge 611, what I like about your streams is that you always back up your statements with hard numbers. Fantastic job. Thank you so much. Well, I think that talk is cheap. I can sit here and say anything, I want, okay? And a lot of people do that, by the way. And a lot of people who talk about Russia do that. I sometimes I watch and check. But I don't like that. I'm economist, okay? That's what I learned as trade, numbers. Economy is about numbers. Economics is about numbers. Numbers actually, my canvas, they paint a picture. They paint of the state of Russian economy. They paint the future. I paint the picture and I see what's going to happen in the future. I know it's not rocket science. Any economist knows, okay? So, but thank you so much. I appreciate it. Going back to David Reed's statement about biggest beggar on YouTube, I actually gave it quite a few thoughts about receiving support on YouTube from people. And I like it because I know that each one of you that has ever bought me coffee or sent, a few bucks on PayPal or, signed up for Patreon. And I don't consider Patreon as just a donation platform because I work hard with Oля. We both work hard for providing you the news about Russia. And I believe that my selection is worth a lot because you can't find the news that I put on Patreon anywhere in the mainstream Western media. So this is a unique source of news that are important and matter, okay? They paint the right picture about Russia. But the thing is, when people buy me coffee or send money through PayPal, that shows that you value my work so much that you actually send me a few bucks that you work hard for, okay? That is a sign that I do something that is valuable to other people. And that's a great feeling. Thank you so much. Pete Glass from London, good to see you. David Nash from the USA. Hugo Oliveira, hello, hello. Seven Cities Kid, wow, won't let me chat without a VPN. More love from the USA. Very odd that you are in the USA and you cannot chat without a VPN. I wonder why. Hold your head up. You are not alone and you are appreciated. Thank you so much, friend, from the bottom of my heart. VJ Jens Baslev. Thank you, Konstantin. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work. All the best. May God be with you. Jens in Denmark. Jens in Denmark. Thank you, Jens. I think we have the same God. God is one. No matter how you call it. But thank you so very much. Jens, fantastic to see you. VJ John, in the wake of new world of economic tariffs. Okay, I already answered that. RW, hello friend. Fantastic to see you. Helena Kinnunen from Finland. Hello, hello, hello. Great to see you. Scott Nesbitt. Paul Buyak from Chicago. Hello. Philip from Slovakia. Do you think that attack on shadow fleet of Russia will help Ukraine? Yes, it certainly will help, because the shadow fleet has been allowing Russia to circumvent oil sanctions. And from what I understand, it's the last method of circumvent the sanctions. If the shadow fleet is attacked, sunk, then Russia is going to run out of money faster. And not only, well, there are different troubles in the oil industry of Russia, and I made a live stream about it yesterday. Check it out. I placed the link up there. Destruction or a blow to the shadow fleet will amount to overall decline of Russia's oil, because it has inner problems and outer problems, external, internal problems. So if it has less capability of transport of whatever oil they come up with, then simply less money comes to Russia. Certainly will help Ukraine. The underdog, good to see you. Listening in the headset. Whoa, Lapland is with you. Does it mean that Santa Claus is with us today too? Kari Leng, good to see you. Lapland is the home of Santa Claus, from what I understand. Christian Bradwell, how is the economy now compared to World War II? I don't know. Which one? The German economy, Russian economy, American economy? Christian from Norway, please specify. I'm not sure. Palvia Flex, Russian bonds, buy toilet paper. It's more useful. I guess you can use the bonds paper for toilet. Well, it's still worth more than toilet paper, but for how long, we don't know. Hugo Oliveira, howdy, howdy. Hola. Pinda the Peanut, howdy. Logical explanation of current Russian situation. The deficit, does that include the bank loans to the military complex? No. Current deficit, as far as I understand it, does not include, because a Russian state will be hit with that debt, but not yet. Right now, it's being treated as private debt of private commercial banks to businesses of military industrial complex. They're just controlled by the state and owned by the state partially. But they treat it as a commercial transaction or commercial transactions. So those bank loans are not part of the debt. But once the military industrial complex enterprises fail to pay, and then the banks will come to the government and will say, hey, we need money. And the government will say, oh, ha, 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 ha. Well, too bad. And then the banks are going to fall like domino. Or they're going to say, okay, we'll come up with money. And they will print a few trillion more, and they will infuse it into the economy, sell the bonds through these very banks and give the banks money back. But it's also a bad solution. It's a lose-lose, because that means that another huge amount of money will be infused into the economy, and Russian ruble will become even less valuable. Okay. You keep referring to Russian law. Jekyll, whoa, what a day. We have Jekyll N coming back. Jekyll, I remember you being on the channel 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Thank you, by the way, good memories, good questions. Thank you for all your support, I remember. Not monetized anymore, you can send super chats, but hey, that's okay, thanks for all the super chats of the past, I remember. This is a huge problem in Russia. Any society to operate normally needs independent courts. It needs normal laws. It needs a good constitution. All has not just deteriorated in Russia, it's been destroyed, okay? It's under complete control of the government. I think this is the very basic of the country. If you want to rebuild Russia, this is where you must start with the laws, with the constitution, and with independent courts. These are values. You have to start with values. And then you build on that. Once you have values in place, once, no matter what, that you can go and get to court and get unbiased opinion, a verdict from a judge who cannot be bribed, that is the foundation. You build on that. So, Jekyll, thank you for showing up. It's fantastic to see you. We should actually celebrate today. KG1, thank you for coming too. How would a financial crash affect the country and Putin's position? Putin's gotta go. If there's a financial crash, which I don't believe there will be a crash, there will be decline. Fast decline, but not crash. Although, I could be wrong, of course, but if there's a crash, Putin's gonna be gone the next day. Because it means that the situation is out of control, and there will be too many actors trying to use that situation to their own advantage. Putin will not stand a chance. There's another immunity like that of Yevgeny Prigozhin. Remember how Putin fled? He was running away. No one knew where he was. He gave a press conference and he was scared. He was looking small. His fingers were shaking. He was begging Russians for help. He was on the brink of being toppled down, okay? And that might happen again. VJ John, I answered that. I don't believe that there will be economic tariffs. You're saying that they are on the corner. Like I said, talk is cheap. Wait until the tariffs come. I don't believe they will come. Or perhaps some will come, but not global tariffs, not such tariffs that can, put everything into a great recession. No. RW, I'm making a fortune trading in Russian rubles. They aren't worth anything, but I discovered people will pay me to take them. Interesting. People will pay me to take them. To take Russian rubles? I don't quite understand, RW. Leitmotif, who can buy Russian bonds? Lots of money to be made short term. How exactly? Now, you have to somehow get money into Russia, and that money is not in rubles. So you have to convert into rubles. You will lose money because banks will, they take a huge cut in that because that's really difficult to do. Russia is off SWIFT. Now you need to establish a broker account. That's no problem. You can do that. You buy bonds, and they pay you, let's say, 17% annuity. But if you run into 38 or 40% inflation, how is that you're making lots of money? But don't forget, even if you make some money from short-term bond transactions, then you need to take money out of Russia, and that's going to cost you up to 40%. Because you can't take money out of Russia easily, okay? You have to use schemes for that. There are no banks that can transfer money from, say, to Bank of America or whatever, So it's not that that's not that easy, and I wouldn't do that. Heath Fankhauser, thank you so much for good words. Thank you. Why are you keep on talking about Republicans, aid to Ukraine and all of that? We're not talking about US politics here. I will make a live stream if something significant happens. Well, it will happen, negotiations. I will talk about that, but that's going to be a specific stream. Okay, just wait until I talk about that. Every time we bring up US politics, people start fighting. This is one thing I don't understand about the Americans today, because when I lived in the USA 20 years ago, things were completely different. No one would ever fight about someone having a different opinion. And somehow it happens now. So this is where the rule of no US politics came from. I wouldn't mind talking about US politics if people behaved civilly, if people were civil, but somehow everyone just starts fighting. Simon Anderson, let me take a couple more questions and we'll wrap it up. What will happen first if the Russian economy keeps getting worse? Will the army retreat? Will the people revolt? Will the Kremlin dissolve? No, neither of these three things. The army will not retreat. The people will not revolt. I don't see any circumstances under which Russian people would revolt. And will the Kremlin dissolve? No. The Kremlin will be trying to hang on to the power, because that's the reason for Kremlin's existence. Vladimir Putin, his friends, if they lose power, they most likely lose lives. They lose everything. They lose their money. They lose property. They lose their status. They lose immunity. They would have to answer for what they've done. So they're going to be fighting until death to keep the power, okay? What will be happening if the economy is getting worse? First of all, I forecast that Russian there will be more and more personal bankruptcies and corporate bankruptcies as well. I see a collapse of Russian real estate industry, and that will put a great deal of pressure onto Russian banks. That can break camel's back, okay? Because you know how the real estate works. You go to a bank, you take out a loan, you construct something, build a house, apartment block, and sell it. And if you go to the bank, build it, and no one buys it from you, and right now there are no transactions. People have stopped buying apartments and houses, okay? So if it's sitting there, then you cannot repay bank. Bank comes in, you go bankrupt, bank repossesses whatever you have and tries to sell it. But it doesn't matter who sells it, bank or you, okay? If you can't sell it, if there is no buyers, then bank will not be sell it as well either. And therefore, a bank is going to default its payments, okay? And that's a potential catastrophe. So this is what I think will be happening very soon. Banks might get some kind of subsidy from a central bank. Perhaps central bank doesn't want to collapse commercial banks, so it will pump the money created out of thin air into commercial banks. But then again, overall, it's going to take another blow to Russian economy. Heine Niesen. Okay, let me take the last question. When Russia goes broke and fails, what will happen? I was very young when the Soviet Union fell. I didn't know. It's a very, very, it's a question that no one can answer now. We don't know. It depends on path that Russia takes. If it's path towards light, that's one scenario. If it's path towards darkness, that's another scenario. Russia might stay as a country. Russia might disintegrate into a few smaller countries. That's one path. There's another path. We don't know. We have to wait and see which path Russia takes. And only it's clear on which path it is, I will be able to tell you my take on what's going to happen in the future. Right now, I simply don't know. Everything depends on the negotiations between the USA and Russia. A lot of people say, well, you can't disregard Ukraine from negotiations. I mean, I hate to be right. And I wish I'm wrong. But I think that Ukraine is going to be put under a lot of pressure to take any deal that the United States makes for Ukraine. I wish I'm wrong, but that's why I'm saying that negotiations will be happening between the USA and between Russia. And perhaps other countries will be along with the USA. I don't know that, but the USA will be the major player. And we'll see. What happens at the negotiations, we'll see. Anyway, friends, I invite everyone to finish this fantastic stream. Thank you so much for coming. Fantastic questions, fantastic support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Tomorrow, Wacky Wednesday news. Lots of news. I've started making them. Please come back tomorrow. Tune in. There will be lots of news. I'll try to release a video, not a live stream, but at the usual time, at the time I started today, or perhaps 1 or 2 hours later. I'm not sure, depending how fast I finish this video. So thank you so much. Please pray along with me. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for your love, for the day that you've given us, for this life, for everything that you have given. Thank you for the food you've placed on our tables and roofs you've given over our heads. Thank you for our families, the love that we receive from people around us. Thank you for our children. Please give us wisdom to keep skies above our children's heads peaceful and safe. Please give us wisdom to raise our children in a way they will not fight in any wars. They will grow up good people that will make this world a better place. For now, please keep our children healthy and safe. Dear Lord, I am asking you to help Ukraine. Please stop the bloodshed. The country has suffered so much, it needs peace. Please give it peace and help every Ukrainian who has suffered in this terrible tragedy. Answer the prayers, make the wishes come true. Please reach out hearts of those who are responsible for making this decision and fill them with love, mercy, empathy, remorse, forgiveness. Wake them up from their lethargic sleep and have them make this decision to stop the bloodshed. Please help my country, Russia. Assemble the army of your strongest angels with sharpest swords. Have Saint Michael lead it. Send this army down to the earth, and so it gets rid of the demons that have hijacked my country, who we know by their names and by their faces. Send your angels to help good Russians run the country. Make it peaceful, loving, and respecting. Dear Lord, please help everyone who is traveling right now. Send them safe travels. Help everyone who is in trouble of any kind, in high waters. Send safety. Help single mothers and fathers who are struggling raising their children. Please help them. Help those who are helping Ukrainians, and help Ukrainians who are currently under attacks from Russian missiles and bombs. Send everyone safety. Dear Lord, please help those in need, the sick, the homeless, the jobless, the hungry, the addicted, the ones losing faith, the depressed, the ones who are crying, the betrayed, the ones who are left alone, abandoned, the ones who are not feeling well about themselves. Reach out and touch their hearts, fill them with love, and show them that you are not far away from them. You have not abandoned them. You are still with them, watching every step they take, and loving them, not going to abandon them. Please help everyone in need. Thank you so much for allowing us to come together and pray. Thank you for 3,300 people praying along with me right now, or simply watching us pray. Make everyone's, regardless of whether they're just watching or praying, wish come true, and answer prayers of those who are praying. Thank you so much, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Now I want to ask you to help those who need help. Please help Frank in Texas, send recovery. Ron Bazoid, Sandra Workman, Teresa D. Please help her and her family, her grandchildren. Send strength. Send your angels to help her on her journey, taking care of her family. Please help Amir's nephew, David. Please have Jov's test pilots, Father's soul rest in peace. Help Ann Larson and her daughter Hannah, Jeffrey S. and his family, Katharina Home, Mark, Hank's sister, who is in Sloan Hospital waiting for surgery, Tom W., J.R. McKim, Gabing with Gary, Lisa Kumrian, Harry and his family, John, Linda, Paula, Dennis, Jason, Susie, Tim, Dory, Rhonda, John, Taylor, Wayne, Dave, Don, Darla, George, Ruberty, Pamela, Meta, David Porter, his family, and everyone from Chernovtsi, Life, Randolph, Grace, Yelena, Natasha, Michael, Jake, Oля, Dasha, Sky, Svetlana, Sergey, Liz, Sergey, Ron, Liz, Koshkin Dom, Sandra, Pathra Olson, Joseph, Melissa, Jodes, Millie, Victor, Denise, Renata, Janice, Derek, Jeff Gibson. Thank you, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you, friends, for coming and giving me a chance to share another message with you. I would like to remind everyone that you're awesome and you rock. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're fantastic. You're making my life better. Thank you so much. Please come back tomorrow. It's going to be, I'll try my best to make it a good stream. Lots of interesting information about Russia. And before I sign off, I'd like everyone to say out loud, along with me, as loud as you can, the following. Carthago delenda est.